If you thought Gavin Newsom's week couldn't possibly get any worse, think again. We've got a bombshell resignation that's blowing the roof off of California's corruption. The FBI is swarming Skid Row investigating voter fraud in the LA mayor race, all as Newsom just got hit with new ethics violations. California's corrupt elites are not having a good week, and you're about to find out why. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, I've got some great news. I've written a new book. It's been weeks of biting my tongue every single time I've sat down here in the studio because I want to talk about this so badly. But the timing matters here more than it's ever mattered before. So today's not the day. I'm not revealing anything yet. I'm going to tease you here. Not the title, not what it's about, not yet. But here's what I will tell you. When I do, it's not going to be on this channel first. If you want the real-time, first-hand updates before anyone else sees them, register for my waitlist. It takes 5 seconds. That's where every update lands first. The link's below. Get on it now. All right, let's dive right in here, gang. On Sunday evening, Alberto Carvalho, superintendent of the Los Angeles Unified School District, the second largest school district in the entire nation, shocked the political establishment by announcing his sudden resignation. Now, that resignation comes on the heels of FBI agents executing simultaneous search warrants at his house in San Pedro and at the Los Angeles Unified School District headquarters in downtown LA. It's all part of a federal probe tied to a failed $6 million AI chatbot contract with a startup called All Here. The company's founder has already been charged with federal fraud and identity theft. Carvalho was placed on paid leave and never came back. This past Sunday night, it was all suddenly over. Now, here's what you need to understand about who Alberto Carvalho was. He was not just running schools. He was a political operator with a platform. He held press conferences with Gavin Newsom to shield illegal aliens from ICE, calling immigration enforcement in schools immoral, unethical, illegal. This was a man who had turned the nation's second largest school district into a progressive city-state, using $6 million in public money to fund an AI chatbot that never worked, whose founder is now in federal court on fraud charges. Now, historically, those kinds of shenanigans would have been solely under the jurisdiction of the individual state. The federal government wouldn't have even been aware of this stuff. And that's because for years, progressive school superintendents like Carvalho operated as local sovereigns inside what I'd like to call sort of the administrative state at the state level, using public funds to advance ideological projects while simultaneously positioning themselves as resistance figures against federal authority. What's so significant here is that these FBI raids signal that that era of unaccountable managerial fiefdoms is ending. The sovereign people, through their Trump federal government, are reasserting oversight over institutions that have been captured by the post-American administrative class. And Alberto Carvalho just became the latest exhibit. And so what we're seeing here is another tentacle in this growing sea monster of California corruption, because Carvalho isn't obviously the only California official with the feds breathing down his neck right now, not by a long shot. As we speak, FBI agents are currently swarming Skid Row, the heart of Los Angeles' homelessness crisis, after viral videos surfaced appearing to show homeless individuals being paid to vote for Karen Bass in the June 2nd primary election. In the videos, multiple homeless people describe being approached by Bass campaign workers and offered cash or gift cards in exchange for their votes. The DOJ confirmed it is indeed investigating a criminal matter. The FBI is on the ground interviewing witnesses, and if you're keeping score at home, the mayor of Los Angeles, who built her entire political identity around compassion for the homeless, may have been using those same homeless people as purchased votes, not housing them, not feeding them, using them as political props for cash. And the irony is almost too much to bear. The very population that Bass and Grease Monkey Newsom claim to be spending $24 billion to help the homeless of Los Angeles, they appear to have become allegedly a vote-buying operation for the Democrat machine that created the crisis in the first place. But that's just the tip of the corruption iceberg for Karen Bass. She's sitting at the center of her own mounting storm, if you can believe it. Her deputy mayor, Brian Williams, the man she appointed to oversee public safety, actually had his home searched by the FBI over an alleged bomb threat he made against City Hall. He actually has since pled guilty to that. And then there's that homelessness money. You'll remember that California spent $24 billion on homelessness programs with virtually no tracking of where the money went. A charity executive in South LA received $23 million in homeless housing funds, and he used it to buy himself a $7 million house in Westwood, a $125,000 Range Rover, private school tuition for his kids, and a vacation home in Greece. It appears that Bass is sitting on the top of an entire web of LA corruption. But no one, absolutely no one, is facing more federal scrutiny than Governor Grease Monkey himself. Wait until you see this. But speaking of corruption, do you ever wonder how people like Nancy Pelosi seem to know exactly when to buy certain stocks? How politicians seem to have secret knowledge of what's going to do well in the market? Well, it's all insider trading. Bottom line, Pelosi and her cronies have been getting away with it for years. But guess what? You and I actually have access to that very same inside information. Thanks to a little SEC loophole, we can track what the big corporate CEOs are buying up in real time, and then we could just ride their coattails into financial success legally and ethically. Once you learn this secret of the trade, you're in. Now, to do that, you got to join me along with my good friend and trading expert, Ross Givens, this Thursday, June 25th at 3 p.m. Eastern. Ross is the real deal. His insider tips have led to returns of over 200%. Some have hit nearly as high as 1,500%. It's going to be absolutely huge, but seating is limited. So click the link below, snag one of the remaining online seats. This is going to change your life, gang. You can't afford to miss it. As we speak, Gruesome Newsom is under a federal investigation for repeatedly pressuring companies regulated by California to donate millions to his wife's nonprofit and then rewarding those companies with hundreds of millions of dollars in state contracts. It is your classic pay to play. Now, ironically, this investigation wasn't started by the Trump administration. It started under the U.S. Attorney's Office in Sacramento, in California's own capital, based on whistleblower tips from inside Newsom's own staff. Jennifer Siebel Newsom, the governor's wife, runs a gender equity nonprofit called the California Partners Project. And Gavin funneled over $4.4 million on what are called behested payments into his wife's nonprofit from companies doing business with or regulated by the state of California, and then in turn gave those companies sweetheart deals. So AT&T donated $185,000 to Jennifer's nonprofit, but then they received $260 million in state contracts. Comcast donated $15,000 and received $20 million from the state. Kaiser Permanente donated $20,000 and received $172 million. You're seeing the pattern here, right? You pay to play, and the state of California plays ball. The California Fair Political Practices Commission already fined Newsom $13,000 for failing to report over $14.3 million in behested payments. So he's already been caught once. And now the feds are treating that fine like smoke, and they're looking for the fire. Now, here's what's so fascinating in all of this. While Newsom's out there publicly claiming that he's been unfairly targeted by a Trump-initiated witch hunt, you'll notice something very interesting. Thus far, not a single Democrat has stepped forward to publicly defend Gruesome Newsom. Not one. We're now several days into Newsom's FBI investigation having been made public, and not a single prominent Democrat, not Schumer, not Pelosi, not Harris, not anyone else, has gone on camera to defend him. If ever there were a deadly silence, it's that. So let's zoom out and name what we're actually looking at here. The superintendent of the second largest school district in America under FBI investigation resigned in disgrace. The deputy mayor of Los Angeles just pled guilty for actually making a bomb threat against City Hall. The governor of California under federal investigation for pay-to-play corruption. Billions of dollars of homeless funds disappearing into the pockets of politically connected nonprofits. Viral videos of homeless voters allegedly paid to cast ballots for their incumbent mayor. These are not isolated incidents. These are the fruits of a Democrat political machine that has run California for decades without any accountability, without any transparency, and without any consequences. Money flows from the taxpayers to the state, from the state to the cities, from the cities then to all these nonprofits, from the nonprofits to the politically connected, and somewhere along the way, it disappears. Everyone gets paid. Everyone gets cut. They're cut. Everyone, that is, except the homeless people sleeping on the streets of L.A., that all that money was supposed to be help. And, of course, without taxpayers getting any bang for their buck. The good news is that J.D. Vance and his anti-fraud task force have California squarely in their sights. The FBI is active in L.A. The IRS is watching Sacramento. Grand jury subpoenas are flying. And with Newsom fuming and his superintendent resigning in disgrace, the reckoning that California's ruling class never thought would come appears to be finally at hand. What I just shared with you barely scratches the surface. I put together a free mini ebook that goes deeper into everything we just talked about. The collapse of the globalist order, the rise of a new civilization rooted in faith, family, and freedom, and what it means for your family right now. It is completely free, no catch. Click the link below, grab your copy, and get the full picture. Because once you understand what is actually happening in this moment, you cannot unsee it.